Helikopterin parçaları burada. İşte tam da bulunduğumuz bu noktayı tarif etmeye çalışıyorduk.
همونطور که مشاهده می‌کنین بنده الان دقیقاً جایی هستم که بالگرد حامل آقای رئیس جمهور و همراهانشون در اینجا دچار سانحه شده. همونطور که میدونین دیروز بعد از افتتاح سد قزغلسی که داشتن میومدن تبریز در همین منطقه در جنگل‌های ارسباران به خاطر اینکه هوا مه‌آلود بوده بارش باران داشتیم اینجا دچار سانحه شده.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحیم. اللهم صل علی محمد و آل محمد و عجل فرجهم. ما را با اولین بخش خبری مشروع 31 اردیبهشت 1403 همراهی بفرمایید. انا لله و انا الیه راجعون. خادم الرضا خادم جمهور ایران آیت الله دکتر سید ابراهیم رئیسی رئیس جمهور اسلامی ایران در راه خدمت به مردم به درجه رفیع شهادت رسید.
Iranian state media declares that the president of Iran, Ebrahim Raisi, died in a helicopter crash on the 19th of May. Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian was also among those killed. The incident happened near Jolfa, in a city on the border with Azerbaijan, about 600 kilometers northwest of the Iranian capital, Tehran. The president had been traveling in Iran's East Azerbaijan province. Around 1:30 p.m. local time, the helicopter went missing in this remote mountainous area. But it was not until 4 p.m. local time that Iranian state TV reported that the helicopter carrying Raisi had experienced what it called a hard landing. Rescuers from the Iranian Red Crescent fought through dense fog, blizzards and mountainous terrain to reach the site of the crash in the East Azerbaijan province. On finding the wreckage, they had reported no sign of life. In the city of Mashhad, a city in Iran, people gather at the holy shrine of Imam Reza to mourn the death of President Ebrahim Raisi. Ebrahim Raisi's death challenges the country's senior leadership as Iran sits amid heightened regional and global tensions, centered on the war in Gaza. So, who was Iran's President Ebrahim Raisi? What were Raisi's policies like at home and abroad? And how the untimely death of Iran's president impacts the politics in Iran and West Asia. We explain. Ebrahim Raisi was born in the eastern city of Mashhad in 1960. As a religious scholar in Iran's theocratic government and a protege of supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei, Raisi climbed the judiciary ranks, serving as a prosecutor in several cities. In the recent past, Raisi had also been seen as a possible successor to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the highest political and religious position in the Islamic Republic. 63-year-old Ebrahim Raisi, a hardline religious cleric, became the president of Iran in 2021. Raisi bagged 62% of the 28.9 million votes in the election. It was marked by the lowest turnout in the Islamic Republic's history. Millions chose to stay at home, and others voided ballots. And Human Rights Watch described the vote as a sham. As president, Raisi oversaw a strategy to expand his country's regional influence, backing militant proxies across West Asia. expediting the country's nuclear program and bringing Iran to the brink of war with Israel. But in the same period, Iran experienced some of its largest anti-government protests in decades, and a severe economic downturn driven by international sanctions and high unemployment.
I think, although it will be a tight competition, I think President Raisi has more blood on his hands than any other official of the Islamic Republic. He has spent most of his life in the judiciary. In the 1980s, which was the bloodiest decade of the Islamic Republic, where thousands of dissidents were executed, Raisi was in the judiciary. Most importantly and infamously, in 1988, he was part of a 3 to 4% death panel that sent more than 3,000 political prisoners, if not more, to their deaths.
Raisi's hardline position was evident in domestic politics. A year after his election in 2022, the mid-ranking cleric ordered tighter enforcement of Iran's hijab and chastity law, restricting women's dress and behavior. Within a few weeks, Mahsa Amini died in police custody at a young age of 22. Amini belonged to the Kurdish minority and was traveling to Tehran with her family when she was stopped by Iran's morality police for her non-compliance. Amini was arrested for allegedly not covering her hair properly, as mandated by Iranian law. Amini's family, activists, and observers claimed police severely beat her, though the government claimed she had a heart attack. Amini's death sparked a massive movement in Iran. Women burned their hijabs and cut their hair in resistance to the rigid rules. The following months of nationwide unrest were one of the gravest challenges to Iran's rulers since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. A theocratic hardliner, Raisi became responsible for crushing dissent and free speech in Iran, and enforcing the harsh hijab and chastity law to restrict women's attire. The law gave unlimited powers to the morality police in Iran. Raisi was the first and only Iranian president to be sanctioned by both the European Union and the United States due to his involvement in the suppression of Iranian citizens. Despite criticism at home, Raisi has managed to sail through the unprecedented isolation. He drew Iran closer to countries like Russia, China, the Central Asian countries, India, and even Africa. Let's take a look at how Raisi transformed Iran's foreign policy and how things may change after his death. Israel and the Hamas-led Palestinian militant groups are locked in a ferocious armed conflict in the Gaza Strip since October 7, 2023. Iran, that supports Hamas financially and militarily, praised the militant group's attack on Israel as a success, but denied any involvement. However, on 13th April this year, Iran launched over 300 missiles and drones in Tehran's first ever direct attack on Israeli territory. Iran's attack was prompted by Israel's alleged action on April 1st. Israel killed several Revolutionary Guards on the Iranian embassy compound in Damascus, including high-level commanders, clearly crossing a line for Iran. Raisi was at the helm when Tehran launched its extraordinary attack on Israel in retaliation. The very fact that Iran directly targeted a powerful adversary backed by an even more powerful superpower, the United States, stunned the world. The Iranian attack posed a significant challenge to the Iron Dome of Israel. Since the start of the Gaza war, violence surged across the region, often involving Iran-backed Hamas allies. Israel has been engaged in near-daily clashes along its northern border with the powerful Tehran-backed Lebanese movement, Hezbollah. In 2016, Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei appointed Raisi, a former Iranian Attorney General, to run the Imam Reza Charity Foundation that manages a conglomerate of businesses and endowments in Iran. This appointment prompted analysts to speculate that Khamenei could be grooming Raisi as a possible candidate to be Iran's third ever supreme leader. A Shiite cleric who would have final say on all state matters while serving as the country's commander-in-chief. But Raisi's life was cut short. Despite the sudden vacuum it has caused at the top of Iran's executive branch, the strategic direction of its foreign and regional policies, determined by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei and influenced by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, is expected to remain intact.
What the Islamic Republic is going to do instead is to show that its processes and its institutions will continue to function, and it's going to try to show a commitment to those processes, take forward the elections that are meant to be held within a 2-month period. That will all be certainly hard to deliver while also generating public support. But I very much suspect that they're going to remain committed to that, and at the same time try to celebrate and commemorate Ebrahim Raisi's life as a martyr of the Islamic Republic, as a loyal leader of the Islamic Republic. So I expect they will try to make the most of this moment as well.
Ebrahim Raisi oversaw the forging of closer ties with Russia and China during his tenure. Iran stepped up cooperation with both China and Russia, especially in trade and defense. Russian President Vladimir Putin traveled to Tehran in July 2022. It was his first foreign trip since the invasion of Ukraine. Reports suggest Iran is supplying drones and other military hardware to Russia. Moscow and Tehran are also deepening economic ties to evade Western sanctions. Putin hailed the Russia-Iran cooperation in the energy, business, agricultural, and knowledge-based sectors at a meeting with the late Raisi. On the death of Raisi, Russian President Vladimir Putin praised the late president of Iran as a reliable partner and asked the chairman of parliament to convey his sympathy at memorial events.
Президент Путин, который, как вы знаете, направил телеграмму соболезнования Ирану, верховному руководителю Исламской Республики Иран, и выразил глубочайшие соболезнования в связи с трагической авиакатастрофой, которая унесла жизни членов руководства страны.
Since the start of the war in Ukraine, Russia has strengthened political, trade, and military ties with Iran in a deepening relationship that the United States and Israel view with concern. Also, before the news of Iranian President Ebrahim Raisi's death emerged, China expressed being deeply concerned when his helicopter went missing. China's deep concern for Raisi was warranted. by the fact that China is Iran's largest trade partner and top buyer of its sanctioned oil. Raisi visited Beijing last February to boost economic and bilateral ties. Reportedly, it was Raisi's first visit to China and also the first visit by an Iranian president in 20 years. Tehran and Beijing have deepened trade ties in recent years. Beijing has also long played a critical role in arming Iran, aiding its efforts to modernize its military hardware and tactics. According to the RAND Corporation, China has facilitated the transfer of technology and machinery for Iran's nuclear program. Iran has also been supplying crude oil to China. In 2023, Iran resumed diplomatic ties with West Asian arch-rival Saudi Arabia after a 7-year hiatus under a deal brokered by China. Just a month ago in April, Raisi went to Pakistan on a diplomatic visit to promote bilateral ties with Islamabad. The visit came 3 months after the nations carried out airstrikes in each other's territories. In January, Tehran conducted airstrikes on suspected militant hideouts in the Balochistan province that alarmed Islamabad. In retaliation, Pakistan reportedly used killer drones and rockets to target what it called terrorist hideouts in Iran's Sistan-Balochistan province. Both sides reported numerous civilian casualties due to the back-and-forth attacks. As a result, the cordial relations between the two neighboring countries suffered a setback. However, the late president's visit to Islamabad in April was seen as an attempt to strengthen Pakistan-Iran ties. The Iranian president vowed to boost trade between the neighboring nations to $10 billion a year. The two sides signed 8 MOUs, covering security matters, enhanced trade ties, creation of special economic zones, judicial support, and cooperation in veterinary and animal health. Another elephant in the room is the Iran-Pakistan gas pipeline, construction for which hasn't even started on the Pakistan side. The reason? Big pressure on Pakistan from the US to impose big economic sanctions if it trades or hobnobs with Iran. President Raisi moved from Pakistan to Sri Lanka, the first visit by an Iranian president to the island nation in 16 years. He inaugurated a $514 million hydropower project, another relationship the US will not be happy with. But what caught everyone's attention from Raisi's South Asia trip was the India factor. At the joint press meet of Sharif and Raisi, Pakistan Prime Minister raised repeated calls for Iran to step in on the Kashmir issue. Raisi remained prominently silent. The snub was apparent. Expressing deep sadness and shock over Raisi's death, Prime Minister Modi remembered his role in enhancing bilateral ties between India and Iran. Under Raisi's tenure, New Delhi's trade with Tehran also increased. In 2022-23, India's bilateral trade with Iran reached $2.33 billion. While New Delhi's trade with Tehran declined in recent years, it saw a 21.77% uptick in 22-23, after Raisi came to power in 2021. Just a week before Raisi's death, New Delhi signed a historic bilateral agreement, a 10-year contract with Tehran to develop and operate the strategically significant Iranian port of Chabahar. Despite the US threat of sanctions, India has backed the project. Here's why the port deal matters to India. The Chabahar port is critical for India's connectivity plans. The port is located in southeastern Iran, along the Gulf of Oman. Iran's only oceanic port serves as an important transit port for India in its trade with landlocked Afghanistan and Central Asian countries, bypassing the ports of Karachi and Gwadar in Pakistan. For India, Chabahar will be the golden gate to more investment opportunities in West and Central Asia. The death of Iranian President Raisi has given a new twist to India's geopolitical choices, especially maneuvering over Iran's Chabahar port. It is to be seen how India's port agreement with Tehran holds up in the future. Raisi's death has dealt an unsettling blow to Iran's politics. It raises questions about the succession, not just the presidency, but also of the most powerful position in the country, that of the supreme leader. As the world awaits the successor to Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the current supreme leader, we tell you an interesting fact about Iran and its history. Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, the father of the Islamic Revolution in 1979, was exposed to spirituality that he inherited from his grandfather, Syed Ahmad Musavi. Khomeini's grandfather, Syed Ahmad Musavi, was born near Barabanki, a city in the Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. He later migrated to Iran. The migration of Ahmad Hindi, a boy from Barabanki, and his teachings played a crucial role in shaping the course of Iran's history. Khomeini became the first supreme leader of Iran and turned it into a theocratic state. Today, Iran is a vastly different country from the one Khomeini inherited in 1979. Khomeini and his successor, the current supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, ruled Iran on religious lines. And it was against the backdrop of a crumbling Iranian economy that Ebrahim Raisi took charge in Tehran. Raisi's death comes at a crucial juncture for Iran. Whoever assumes Raisi's role inherits limited controlling power, because the ultimate decision-making authority lies with the supreme leader. It remains to be seen how the future unfolds in this Islamic Republic.